Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Right, today we'll be jumping into Revelation, the 13th chapter, and going through that, which we can get through it. The whole thing peacefully, and that it be edifying unto the hopeful elect. So jump right into it. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 13, the beast from the sea, right? Because Revelation, the 13th chapter, goes into a lot of what we're seeing today in the dealing with the digitalization of everything, okay, in the whole technological system that Esau is implementing. Revelation chapter 13 verse 1, and it reads, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy." All right, now this beast is dealing with pretty much the power structure of Esau Edom. Both you had an ancient beast, okay, and you had a current one, in which the ancient beast, all right, in which that power structure, first off, that power structure of Esau Edom was pretty much the Western pagan Roman Empire. All right, now I said that you had the ancient one and you have the current one, which is pretty much a revival of the ancient one. All right, so going into the ancient one first, all right, it says that it's having, and saw a beast rise out of the sea, the Western pagan Roman Empire, having 7 heads, in which those 7 heads are going into the Greeks, okay, the Romans, the Greeks, the Romans, the Spanish, the French, Germania Major, Germania Minor, and the British. All right, in which all of those nations or peoples were pretty much Edomite kingdoms that ultimately were under Rome, creating the Roman Empire. All right, when you go through the history, you see how Rome goes throughout Europe, throughout the Italian peninsula, and throughout the Mediterranean, conquering the Greeks, the Spanish, the British, all right, and also the neighboring peoples, all right, forming their empire. And the 10 horns, okay, these ancient 10 horns are going into Germanic tribes back then, who were pretty much, as we said, conquered into the Roman Empire. You had some who fought their way in, all right, some who were pretty much fighting against Rome, but then Rome hired them as military personnel, all right, vassal states, to fight for Rome instead. And what Rome gave them was pretty much land, all right, certain food supplies, and so on and so forth. So pretty much Germanic tribes who ultimately got into Rome, got under the Roman Empire, all right, and eventually became an extension of that Roman Empire. Because as you read in the history, all right, when the official date of the pagan Roman Empire fall, or the Western Roman Empire falls, what happened was that those Germanic tribes ultimately absorbed it and created their own kingdoms, but they still pushed that Greco-Roman way, all right, in which those 10 horns were the Anglo-Saxons, the Franks, the Herules, the Sueves, the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, the Vandals, the Alemanni, the Lombards, and the Burgundians. All right, those were those ancient 10 horns. And upon his 10 horns, 10 crowns, and the crown represents dominion. All right, as we said, those tribes, those peoples, pretty much ended up forming their own kingdoms. And upon his heads the name of blasphemy. All right, and when you go into this word blasphemy, because another thing dealing with the Greco-Roman culture was high deification. Okay, they deified pretty much anyone walking, man. Okay, they what they did was a lot of time was put man in the stead of God. All right. And even today, when you think of other gods, right, you think of what? You know, the gods of Olympus, okay, the Greek gods, right, the Roman gods. That's what most people think of, right? And you know, they're false gods just as any other false gods, you know, that people worship. But also, when you go into this word blasphemy, blasphemia, it reads slander, detraction, speech injurious to another's good name. All right. And for something, a speech injurious to another's good name, well, when you speak, you know, diminishing the power of the Lord. All right. When whatever you says diminishes the power of the true living God, that's blasphemy. All right. When whatever you says paints a false narrative of the true living God, you know, that's blasphemy. All right. And so on and so forth. Because something being injured, right, it does not, you know, always, it's not always physical. All right. You can injure, as it reads here, injurious to another's good name. That's what? Injuring their reputation. All right. You are, you know, painting them to be something they're not. All right. Painting, you know, their words to be something that wasn't their words. Okay. And things of that nature. That's injuring their reputation, because now you're giving a false image of what this person is. Now we're reading it once more. Okay, so that's dealing with the ancient beast, which was pretty much the pagan Roman Empire, right? The Western Roman Empire. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Now this current beast, okay, which is that same pagan Western Roman Empire today, all right, but modernized, would be America, NATO, and the EU. That would be the power structure of Esau Edom today. Now, more specifically, all right, these 10 horns that are upon the beast, a part of the beast, would be the EU. Okay, because when you go into the history of the EU, before it was known as the EU, or before it grew into what the EU is today, it was known as the European Economic Community, all right, the EEC. And those first 10 nations, for lack of better words, those would be those 10 horns. All right, but later on, it eventually evolved into, you know, as more nations joined in, to what we know as the EU today, in which, you know, we named the ancient names of those 10 horns, but the modern names would be, in, I believe, the EEC, right? It was actually 12, but there were some where 2 of the nations really made up one. All right. So to list them, you had UK and Ireland, all right, or England and Ireland, which though they were one. Spain and Portugal were one. You had Greece, West Germany, Italy, France, Belgium, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Denmark. All right, those would be the 10. But eventually, right, as time moved forward, more nations joined in. Okay, more Edomites became kind of confederate. All right, and now you have, you know, the EU as we know it today. So you have that ancient beast, and then you have the current beast, which is pretty much that modernized ancient beast. It's the same people. So continuing to verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet, and they were all Edomites, right? The power structure of Esau Edom. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. All right, now what this verse is going into is pretty much going into the start of Esau's rulership over the world to the end of Esau's rulership over the world. Okay, it's like pretty much when people go from head to toe. All right, when you go from start to finish, they typically start from the head down to the toes, right, the feet. So what it says here, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and this is dealing with the Greeks. All right, the Greeks ruled by Alexander the Greek. Okay, that was the start of pretty much Esau's power over the world, or the known world at the time. Shalakia. But that began Esau's number one spot of authority over the earth. And let's get the book of Daniel chapter 7 verse 6. And it reads, after this I beheld, and lo, in which what this is going into is here the four beasts, all right, representing the four nations that would pretty much rule, the four empires that would pretty much rule this earth age. Okay, so in verse 6, this is that third beast. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard. Again, this is dealing with the Greeks, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given unto it. All right, so dealing with the Greeks, ran by or ruled by Alexander the Greek, and these four wings of a fowl and 4 heads, which pretty much speaking about the same thing, are going into Alexander's 4 generals, who ultimately ended up pretty much taking over and dividing his territory after his death. All right, in which those generals were Ptolemy the first Soter, Seleucus the first Nicator, Lysimachus, and Cassander. Right, those were pretty much those 4 generals that ended up, inheriting his kingdom, for lack of better words. Getting more on that, let's get the book of First Maccabees, the 1st chapter. It's the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, Alexander the Greek, Alexander the Great, as people refer to him as, Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, and had smitten Darius, king of Persians and the Medes. All right, the Medo-Persians were that second beast, that second empire to rule this earth age. And they were taken down by who? The Greeks. That he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Right, this is that leopard. and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him. Why? Because this is prophecy. Right, it was now their time to be in that number one position. And took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up, and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. All right, and what this is going into is, while Antiochus was alive, he parted his kingdom among pretty much his generals, all right, in which he had a lot. And eventually it led up to something as known as the Wars of the Diadochi, which were pretty much wars between those generals that, pretty much fighting over the territory, fighting over power, and it ultimately came down to 4, all right, through various wars, alliances, and so on and so forth. All right, it came down to those 4 that we named previously. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. This actually search that up. Wars of the The Wars of the Diadochi, or Wars of Alexander's successors, were a series of conflicts fought between the generals of Alexander the Great, known as the Diadochi, over who would rule his empire following his death. All right, so and it ultimately came down to those 4. Let's see if we can go to images. So you see here, right, how they have the different lands split up. So all of those were pretty much generals who had a portion, and as we said, it ultimately, came down to 4 of them. So going back here, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. All right, and them putting crowns upon themselves, that's them what? And dominion was given to it. That's them receiving that dominion. All right, receiving their lands to rule over, so on and so forth. Right, and so did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Why? Because you have the wicked in rule. All right, it's Esau, Edom. So going back to Revelation, that's that first part. All right, the beginning of Esau's rulership over the earth, the leopard, the Greeks, the Grecian Empire, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. And his feet were as the feet of a bear. So again, as we said, from head to toe, right, start to finish, the feet would be this bear, the end would be this bear, in which this bear is a representation of Russia. Now to clarify, Russia, the Russians, all right, although they are Edomites for the most part, they are not a part of the beast, okay? But it's saying here that the feet of it, a bear, likening Russia being the end of that beast, is because the Lord is going to use Russia in our time, all right, to be that number 1 nation that the Lord uses to destroy Esau's empire, all right, to put an end to America, NATO, and the EU, to put an end to the empire of Esau, Edom on the earth. All right, and when we look up symbol of Russia, Russia bear. The bear is the widely recognized unofficial, okay, and that's that right here proves scripture. Why? The bear is widely recognized unofficial national animal of Russia, while the official state emblem is the double-headed eagle. The bear has symbolized Russian might, resilience, and vast natural wilderness for centuries. All right, and why is that unofficial, man? This isn't even something that they put in place, and yet it's still put upon them. Why? Because it was scripture. Okay, this bear is supposed to represent Russia because the Lord wants it to. So the fact that that spirit still was able to manifest itself, upon the earth, shows you that's the power of the Lord. Russian bear. The Russian bear is a widespread symbol for Russia, used in cartoons, articles, and dramatic plays since as early as the 16th century. All right. But yeah, that's a representation of Russia, because Russia is going to be that main nation that the Lord uses to destroy Esau. All right, you read that in the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, Ezekiel, the 39th chapter. All right, when the Lord speaks about Gog and Magog, and also when they're also likened unto the Medes. All right, and also in the 38th chapter, it shows you how the Lord was going to use Russia to come up against Esau. All right, then ultimately, destroy Russia as well, or come up against them as well, because they're Edomites too. But continuing, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. All right, and this lion is a representation of Great Britain. Now again, you search up the symbol of Great Britain. What symbolizes Great Britain? The crowned lion. As crowns, the coat of arms that is surmounted by the royal crown. Below the crown is displayed the national motto, God and my right. Yeah. Displayed beneath the shield are rose, thistle, and shamrock. The primary symbol of Great Britain is the Union Jack, the Union flag, which combines the crosses of England, Scotland, and Ireland. Other major national symbols include the royal coat of arms, the lion, representing courage and monarchy. All right, and this lion here is speaking about Britain, okay, because you had the time that they were, that number one empire on the earth. But also, why does it liken them unto the mouth? Because, going back into those elite bankers, all right, those British elite bankers who really, pretty much control everything behind the scenes, all right, the ones who are actually giving orders behind the scenes, all right, those elites, in which the most famous is, as we all know, being who? The Rothschilds, right? So that's that, the description of the beast, all right, from the leopard to the lion, or leopard, lion, bear, from beginning to end. So continuing, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority, which is dragon is representation of the pagan Roman Empire, and it says the dragon gave him his authority and his seat and great authority. Now, when you're dealing with the pagan Roman Empire, okay, the heart of that dragon, the heart of that empire would be what? Rome itself. All right, and you have this current the current beast system, pretty much, in which the heart of the current beast system would be America. All right, that heart, the face, all right, it would be America. And this current beast system draws, pretty much its power from the ancient one. Okay, it's built off of the principles of the ancient one. Why? Because it's the same people, all right, it's the same structure brought back. And proof of that, right, when you because going back into we said how the EU today, all right, before it was the EU, it was the EEC, all right, and you had those 10 nations, which would be these 10 horns. And when you go into the history of the EEC, it was founded under something called the Treaty of Rome. All right, that's not a coincidence. Treaty of Rome, EU. The Treaty of Rome, signed on March 25, 1957, is a foundational agreement of the European Union. It established a European Economic Community, EEC, creating a common market based on free movement of goods, services, capital, and people. Right? The fact that it was even founded on what the Treaty of Rome shows you why it's the same people. All right, come back. Also, as I have here already had pulled up, here you have the Western Roman Empire, right, showing you how Esau continued to push Rome, all right, and they never let it go. Okay, they were forced to stop it, but when they came back into power, they built it back up. Here you have Wikipedia, Western Roman Empire. Right, legacy. Okay, legacy. All right, legacy is pretty much the what it left behind. All right, what continues to develop, even though this said thing might have stopped. What does it affect after its death? Right, legacy. As the Western Roman Empire crumbled, the new Germanic rulers, well, which would be what? Those 10 tribes, right? Who conquered its constituent provinces, maintained most Roman laws and traditions. Okay, so they continued on in that Roman way. And fast forward today, they do the same thing, it's just modernized. So, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. All right, the current beast system is built off of the principles of the ancient one. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. All right, the 7 heads, we had the Greeks, the Romans, the Spanish, the French, Germania Major, Germania Minor, and Britain. Okay, and this head that was wounded to death, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, was what? Rome. Remember, we said that Rome was the heart, the face of the ancient empire. And what this is going into is when the Lord took Esau out of power. All right, specifically dealing with the pagan Roman Empire, which Revelation, the 20th chapter, goes into this. The Lord took Esau out of power for a period of roughly 1,000 years. Okay, and then that's when you had Jake, Israelites, ruling for that rough period of 1,000 years. Right, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And then also, because dealing with Rome, because Rome was also a part of the beast. You had the Roman Empire, but you also had Rome itself, right? Dealing with Rome itself, going all the way back to 96 AD, all right, where you had Nerva come up as the emperor. Okay, you had the fall of Domitian and the Flavian dynasty. That was also hinted at here. Okay, because Domitian was pretty much that last of the Esau ruling in Rome before you had Jake ruling with Emperor Nerva and the Nerva Antonine dynasty. They were Jake, they were Israelites. But what this is mainly speaking of is that period of 1,000 years where the Lord had completely took Esau out of power and had them subject unto Israel. And his deadly wound was healed. Okay, this deadly wound being healed is Esau coming back into power. All right, and when they came back into power, that was during the time of something called the Renaissance era. All right, and during that time, that's where they pretty much deceived the world. All right, that was where they laid the groundwork for what the world is today. Salakia, or to get to where they have the world today. All right, through deception. And all the world wondered after the beast. Why? Because of that deception. All right, they deceived the minds of the people to pretty much thinking that the Esau, all right, the so-called white man, is the greatest thing that ever happened to the planet. All right, everything that they touch becomes better. Okay, they're the smartest. All right, they're pretty much the savior of the world. And that got the people of the world to pretty much follow after Esau and his ways. All right, when you look into this word wondered, it goes into admiring, right, idolizing. Wondered, thumazo.
Strong's G 2296, Thalmazo.
To wonder at, marvel. To be wondered at, to be had in admiration. All right, and typically when something is admired, all right, people want to be like that. All right, people want to do what they're doing. Right, and that's the state that Esau had the world in, which is why we have the world we have today, where Esau is at the top, where Esau, whatever the white man, all right, the European man is loved by the world. In which we see that going away now. Why? Because the Lord has revealed who the wicked truly is. Right, the Lord is revealing these devils, but before then, all right, the Esau was praised, man. And also during that time, okay, they deceived they deceive people through, defacing history, all right, erasing history, hiding history, changing history. All of that deception played into the hold and power that they have on the people of the world today, man. And that goes back into the blasphemous things that they did, but we'll get into that more, because as you in verse 5. But continuing, verse 4, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. All right, so how did they worship the dragon, that system of the pagan Roman Empire, or the pagan Roman Empire, right? And it was pretty much indirectly, all right, because Esau coming into power, being those people, all right, pushing the same ways, just modern people indirectly worship the beast, take part in those ways through religion, all right. That's a big factor. The way that people run governments, all right, the way of life that Esau pushes, language, architecture, right, and pretty much the way that Esau pushes that people live in, all right. It's all reminiscent of the ancient Roman Empire, just modern. Okay, that's why people don't really realize it. Another one is entertainment, right? You have these football stadiums or different stadiums. That's a coliseum, all right. It's the same stuff, just modern. So people indirectly, all right, unknowingly, are worshiping this system, all right, are worshiping the pagan Roman Empire without even knowing, right, for the most part, because it's the same things. They just dressed it up a little bit. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who was like unto the beast, who was able to make war with him, right? Now, another thing I want to say is that as you read throughout this chapter, it mentions beast, but sometimes it's like in a telescope, right? It zooms in and it zooms out. Sometimes it gets more broad, and sometimes it's dealing more specifically, or dealing more with a specific part of the beast, all right, which is mainly the heart or the face of that beast, which is America, all right, the current beast, which would be America. So it reads here, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him, all right. And that was what Esau, deceiving the world, having the world, looking after Esau so much that people start to pretty much question, who can defeat this, all right, who can come up against his power, all right, who can replace Esau, all right, who can replace what Esau has, And another way that I like to read this is going into how people worship the dragon, all right, pretty much going into how Esau, or people, take part in the ways, in the way of life that Esau pushes, which is the same as this ancient Roman Empire, just modernized, and how people like that, all right. They love the life that Esau has given them, all right. They love the fact that they can do whatever they want, think how they want to think, they can believe this, believe that, all right, and so on and so forth. And they're questioning who is like unto the beast, who else can give us, the pleasure and the this life that Esau has given us, all right, who is able to make war with him, who is able to pretty much do what he does, all right, who can do it better than him, like almost questioning a challenger, right? Who can do it better, and the answer for the people, or speaking as the people, would be no one, right? Did they love the way of life that Esau has given them, right? Specifically or mainly dealing with, the people over here in America, man. But again, as I said, we see how the Lord is turning that table, because now you see people are upset, all right, angered at their rulers, so to speak. Because that life that Esau has given them, well, Esau is taking it away, right? And the scripture is going to, as we read further down, we're going to get into that too, all right? This digital system, the digital prison, the digital hell that Esau is trying to, capture his subjects into. And the people aren't down with it, man. They like the old way of life that Esau had given them, or the way of life that, that they were used to. But continuing, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Right, again, as we look into that word blasphemies, look into it one more time. I believe it was blasphemia. Blasphemia, right? Slander, detraction, speech injurious to another's good name, impious, reproachful, speech injurious to divine majesty. and this is what Esau has done. All right, they're with their pride. Okay, they pretty much boast themselves against the Heavenly Father. All right, they promote and push an anti-God, anti-righteous, anti-Messiah society, anti-godly way of life. All right, and that's blasphemy. Okay, because in doing that, you are injuring, the glory of the Lord. All right, you're removing the fear of Yahweh Ba'Shem Abashai on the earth. All right, that's injuring his reputation, and also what these devils did when we were talking about Renaissance. All right, what they did was, as scriptures put it, cover over the faces of the judges. Right, they painted the Heavenly Father to be a so-called Edomite, a so-called white man. They painted the angels to be so-called white. They painted his son to be so-called white. And all of these things, and that's injurious to the Heavenly Father and his people, and so on and so forth. All right, because that there is a flaw there. All right, that's painting a false narrative on who they really are. Okay, that's injurious. That's blasphemy. I actually want to look up in your definition. To injure means to cause physical or mental harm, damage, or wrongdoing to a person, animal, or object. It can refer to inflicting bodily wounds, impairing health, or negatively affecting things like a business, reputation, or legal right. Right? Emphasis on the reputation. Right here it says abstract reputation, to harm or tarnish someone's feelings, pride, or professional standing, injured his reputation, in which they're not tarnishing, the Lord's pride or whatever, but in his standing in a sense. All right, because another thing that they do is, they injure or falsely narrate the word of the Lord. Okay, what he was about, who he was for, and so on and so forth. That's all of that is injurious to the Lord and his name, man. It's blasphemy. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy. And another reason that Esau does this, right, because we mentioned pride and the lack of fear in the Lord. Well, that's because their technology. All right, the Lord has given Esau the ability to develop their technology to certain, heights now, to where Esau is boasted up even prouder than before. All right, I remember one of these devils, you know, where they were talking about their technology, and I believe it was no no Nova Yuval or Noah Yuval Harari, right? I believe it was him, okay, that demon, that he said that, you know, because they have, it was certain technologies that he was speaking of, but because they can do this now, we have this, that we can make the God of the Bible mad all we want, all right, because now we don't need him, pretty much saying some shit like that, right? And that's what, I mean, that's blasphemy, okay, talking transgressfully against the Heavenly Father like that, all right, and pretty much, as we said, all right, that anti-godly way that and vibration that they push, man. I believe that was him. Let's see. No, Ferrari. We can make God mad all we want. Harari posits that as humans acquire the ability to design life and engineer, history began with humans inventing God, and end when humans become gods. Okay, yeah, and then you see the type of rhetoric that, you know, these devils speak. Shows you that these are the devils, you know, Satan, adversaries of the Most High, right? The anti-Messiah, and that they're allotted for destruction. Is this not blasphemy? But that's not what we're looking for. Let's see. We can make the God of the Bible all we want. Who said something like this? All right, Esau playing games, but I know one of them said that, you know, that's because getting their technology, all right, their pride is at an all-time high. But continuing, and power was given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months. All right, and this is mainly one of the parts where I was talking about, where it focuses on really America, because what this is going into is pretty much the time of slavery, all right, where the Lord had us subject, or the Lord gave Esau the power to subject us unto a harsh, you know, time of slavery. And it's 42 months, which we went into this in I believe it's the Revelation 18th chapter breakdown, but is prophetically for roughly 350 years. All right, in the scriptures you'll read 42 months. It'll liken unto 42 months, 3.5 days, all right, or 3.5, or 3.5 years, or 3.5, right? 1260 days. You have 42 months. Also, it might say a times and a half, right? In which the time would be 1, times plural would be 2. 1 plus 2 is 3.5. All right, that's all prophetic for 350 years, which would be from 1619. All right, when you search up the time where you had the first slaves arrive over here, they dated back to 1619, and then, you know, 350 years ahead of that to 1969. But yeah, that's what that's going into, right? In which that would, you know, would have been over here in America, right? And because when you had the Southern Kingdom go into that harsh slavery, that's when you had both southern and northern kingdoms over here in the Americas. Verse 6, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the Most High, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. So again, going into Esau pretty much speaking against the Lord, corrupting his image, corrupting the images of the Lord, of Yahweh Shai, of the angels, of his people. All right. Salakia, painting them to be something that they're not. All right, painting their what they're about to be something that they're not. All right, and that's why scriptures say that that they crucified Yahweh Shai again. All right, let's grab that real quick. It's the book of Revelation. Oh, not 13. I believe it's 8. Here, it's the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of that great city, which these dead bodies are speaking about the dead bodies of Israel, in which they're spiritual dead bodies, all right, meaning they were lacking understanding. Proverbs 21 and 16. The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. So Israel, us, all right, over here in America, we were lacking understanding and the wisdom of who we were, all right, who our God was, so on and so forth. So we were likened unto being dead, right? And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of that great city. And great city is America. Okay, the great city is spoken of in Revelation 17 and 18. The great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. All right, if you were being genuine with yourself, who would that be today? And it is America, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. Okay, Sodom because of the way of life, okay, that America pushes, that Americans live, all right, that this country, this city, exhibits. And Egypt, well, what happened in Egypt? Okay, we were under bondage, captivity, a great bondage and captivity, and ultimately delivered from Egypt. All right, does not scriptures liken in the book of Jeremiah? The Lord says what? It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 14, verse 16. I believe it's here, or is it 14? Is it 16? No, I think it's this. Okay, it's probably 16 and 14. Yes. Wadi Yahweh Shai. It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 16, verse 14. And it reads, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, the Lord Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai liveth, that brought the children out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, which is where? America, North America, and from all the lands whither he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their lands that I gave unto their fathers. All right, so not only is America also likened unto Egypt because of what, a great bondage for Israel, but it's also going to be a place of great, even greater deliverance for our people. For us, Lord's will, we be of that number, right? But going back, where also our Lord was crucified. All right, now we know the Lord wasn't literally crucified in Sodom or Egypt, or America, but spiritually, right? Because what Esau has done is pretty much, when someone, when someone dies, right, they leave on, or they live through their legacy, right? As we went into in the legacy of the Western pagan Roman Empire, all right, people and things live on through their legacy, okay, through the things that they affect, through what they were, okay, and that memory is carried on. So if you were to change what that person was about, change those memories, change the the legacy of that person, that would be likened unto killing them all over again, right? And that's ultimately what Esau has done. They changed the word of the Lord, okay? They changed what the Lord was about, changed how he looked, all right? Changed who his people were, changed what his message was, changed what his purpose was, all of that, man. All right, and that's likened unto crucifying the Lord again. On top of that, they changed his name. That's likened unto crucifying the Lord again, man. That's killing a man. Erasing his name, that's killing him. All right. But yeah, we know that was all through the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. But going back to Revelation 13 chapter, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the Most High. That's part of that blasphemy, all right? Against the Most High, to blaspheme his name. Oh, there we go. And his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, all right? The saints are the Israelites. Read that in Psalms. Well, we might as well just grab it. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 148, verse 13. Let them praise the name of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, for his name alone is excellent. His glory is above the earth and heaven. He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Right, that's one verse you can get. Also have Deuteronomy, the 33rd chapter, I believe. Also, you jump ahead in this chapter. Praise ye the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, verse 1. Sing unto the Lord a new song, and his praise in the congregation of saints. Let Israel rejoice in him that made him. Right, so on and so forth. But the saints are the Israelites. And going back to 13 and 7, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints. This was Esau coming against both the northern and the southern kingdoms. All right, you had the northern kingdom who were already over here in the Americas. Esau came up against them, all right, subdued them, caused hell upon them, right? And also us, right, who were for the most part dwelling in Africa, right? And they came up against us with the help of obviously the other nations, rounded us up, defeated us, right? Brought us over here, put us in slavery, so on and so forth. And to overcome them, right? That overcome is, pretty much Esau prevailing over us. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, right? Showing you how Esau Edom is, over the world now. Okay, they are the nation that's ruling the earth now. Because going back into Daniel, the 7th chapter, remember, Esau's rule started with the Greeks, that leopard, and is going to end with the beast. And after this, I saw in the night vision, behold, a fourth beast, that fourth beast, Salakia, which is Rome. Behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, devoured and break in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Okay, again, remember, Rome. All right. Today we are in the second leg of that Roman Empire. The first one, the ancient one, as we broke down. All right, but now you had that where the Lord took Esau out of power, right? But now they've come back into power, all right, and established that same system, modernizing it, all right, and now they're perfecting that system, quote unquote perfecting, all right, in their eyes through their technology. But it's still Rome. It's modern Rome, as the pretty much these previous verses went into. But we're reading this once more. And power was given him over all kindreds and nations and tongues and nations. To get the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 6. It's the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 6, verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times, Or what shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? All right, the end of what first? The end of the first earth age. The first earth age consists of four, ruling empires: Assyrio-Babylonians, Medo-Persians, the Greeks, starting Esau's empire and ending with Rome. All right, so ending with Esau. In the beginning of it that followeth, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And that's why, as we're reading here, Esau is in power right now. Okay, they rule over all kindreds, as it says, and tongues and nations. They rule over the earth, right? Let's also grab the book of Daniel 7 and 18. We start here at 17. It's the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 17. These great beasts, which are four, which we just listed the four, are four kings which shall arise out of the earth. All right, Revelation 17 and 2 went into the start of Esau's rulership and the end, right? Starting with the Greeks, ending with the Romans, and ending with Esau, or the bear. Okay, the Lord using Russia as that main nation to come against and end Esau's empire. But that would be ending that this Roman empire, right? These great beasts, which are four, and four kings, which shall rise out of the earth, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. Okay, and this is the beginning, as it reads here, the beginning of it that followeth. All right, where Israel is in power ultimately, all right, headed by Yahweh Shai, and the Heavenly Father, and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. All right, going into the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of the Most High, all right, which is a kingdom just like all these other nations had their kingdom, on the earth. All right, it's going to be a kingdom on the earth, but a completely righteous kingdom on the earth that is going to last forever. All right, all nations will be there, but not all nations will be ruling. All right, not all nations will receive salvation to get there. So going back to Revelation 13. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, Esau coming in up against Israel and ultimately prevailing, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, and they still have that power. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. All right, so and in the book of life, the book of life of the Lamb is going into those who have been predestined, all right, or allotted to receive mercy and salvation from the Lord, i.e. the elect of the nation of Israel. All right, so everyone who is not of the elect of the nation of Israel will ultimately, follow in the ways of Esau, follow in the beast system. Okay, worship the beast system, and his image, which is the system, right? Take his mark, and so on and so forth. All right, they're going to follow in Esau's deception. If any man have an ear, let him hear. Okay, and not speaking literally, because we all have ears, right? But spiritual, right? Meaning you have a spirit, a mind that's going to not only listen, but understand and hearken to what it is that you're hearing. All right, the truth. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Ooh, and Esau hate this. All these other nations hate this verse. We love it though. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. What is the patience and the faith of the saints? Well, that this, all right, what our enemies have done to us, we are going to do unto them. All right, we have been taken captive unto all nations, and we will take captive all nations, man, in the kingdom. All nations will be slaves of Israel. All right, for a period of 1,000 years. After that 1,000-year period is over, you will be able to go back and dwell in your own lands and build up your own lands, so on and so forth. But just like any ruling empire, all right, you're still going to be subject, tributaries unto us. But he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints of Israel, all right, in which only a portion really of Israel, because the Lord is only dealing with a portion of Israel in our time, is really waiting on us, man. Is really waiting on the Lord's return and revenge on our enemies, man. You have some who don't want the Lord to avenge us, upon our enemies. Okay, they side with the enemy, in fact, which shows you why, or you see why the Lord is going to ultimately destroy them, as if they were an enemy as well. Scriptures say that, if you aren't with the Lord, then you're against them, roughly paraphrasing. And there's many scriptures we can grab on the other nations, and especially Esau, Edom going into captivity, but for an interest of time, we're not going to do it this time. But I have done recent lessons where I do go into, pretty much most scriptures, okay, proving that Esau will indeed go into captivity. And actually, right, let's grab a few. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 16. Not only Esau, but the other nations as well. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, who are the adversaries of the nation of Israel? Every other nation. Every one of them shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. All right. Now, look here. It's the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 24. It reads, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. Who? Israel. We were led away captive into all nations. We are still captive in all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And that time of the Gentiles being fulfilled, as we read in 2 Ezra, the 6th chapter, all right, is when Esau being the end of the world, is taken out of power, all right, and then the one that comes after is established, all right, the kingdom of heaven. But point is, all right, and 144, call all Yahweh Shem Shai. But point is, we are in captivity in all nations, man, and all nations have aided in our downfall. Okay, they've aided in our mental, spiritual death. All right, that's Revelation, the 11th chapter. And they've all come up against us. Okay, they've all, as it reads here, they've all made themselves an adversary of Israel at one point, okay, or another. And even now, you see how all the nations treat Jake, man. That disdain for Israel upon the earth has never gone away. And even now, these nations are showing that. All right, and the Lord will avenge us, man. Let's grab one more. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 2. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. Did we not just read we would be captive under all nations? All right, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors, man. That's all of you other nations. But let's go back. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Let's get this in NLT. Anyone who is destined for prison will be taken. Nah. See, they fucking it up. Anyone destined to die by the sword will die by the sword. This means that the Most High's holy people must endure persecution patiently. And they completely butchered that. But that's Esau for you, right? Continuing, the beast from the earth, Revelation 13 and 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Right, again, what this is mainly dealing with is really America, okay? But going into it, and he had, going into this part, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. When you go into this word dragon, right, you have the word dracon, okay? And that's where you ultimately get the word draconian from, right? Which we're going to get into that. But a dragon, a great serpent, a name for Satan. But that word draconian, which let's do this. Dracon etymology. Or is it draconian etymology? Yeah, here it is. Okay, draconian. All right. Of or pertaining to Draco, the ancient Greek statesman, in reference to laws, rigorous, extremely severe, or harsh. Okay, so going into pretty much harsh rule. Okay, extreme rule. Earlier, draconic, which is implied from, okay, Draco is the Latinized form of Greek dracon, which is where you have here, okay, name of the Archon of Athens, who laid down a code of laws for Athens that mandated death as punishments for minor crimes. And that's that extremely severe or harsh part, right? His name seems to literally mean sharp-sighted. So this is what this dragon or this dracon is going into, okay, the harsh rule, all right, the severe and extreme rule. So here it says, and he had two horns like a lamb. Now these two horns are going into the bipartisan system, all right, where you have two political parties, okay, and in dealing with America, you have what? The Republicans and the Democrats. And even going back during the time of ancient Rome, all right, you had what was known as the plebeians and the patricians, which the plebeians today would be likened unto the your Democratic Party, all right, and the patricians, which were, because the plebeians were more the common folk, right, the commoners and the lower class peoples, and the patricians were your nobles, your senate, all right, the people who had more more money, more say, more influence, all right, and that would be likened unto your Democratic Party. But it's saying here, and he had two horns like a lamb, all right. A lamb is a figure of peace, kindness, all right. Docile, is meek. To this word lamb, a little lamb, a lamb. Right, let's search up lamb meaning. Animal, meat, figurative and idiomatic meanings. Gentle / innocent person, used to describe someone who is sweet, meek, or innocent. All right, so it's saying that they come as a lamb, they come innocent, they come all nice like, and he spake as a dragon. So you have these two parties who pretty much push that they're for the people, all right, that they will make life better and so on and so forth. But when they get into power, it's not quite that, all right. That's where that severe rule comes from, all right. That's where the laws that aren't really helping the people, that the people don't really like, right. In fact, the economy is getting worse and so on and so forth, all right. And pretty much that's Esau Edom, all right. What they do is they come to you, all right, they sweet talk you and get that foot in the door, Once they get that foot in the door, they show their true colors, man. All right. And that's why scriptures say to never trust thine enemy. Never. Not, okay, maybe once in a while, only on Thursdays. No, never. Never trust thine enemy. All right. It's the book of Psalms 55, verse 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. All right. And creating that peace was what coming as that lamb, right? That innocence. He hath broken his covenant, right? When you make a covenant, you pretty much that's words spoken to in agreement, right? And again, that's that coming as the lamb, but ultimately speaking as a dragon. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. That's the dragon part. His words were softer than oil, that innocence, all right, the lamb. Yet were they drawn swords to the dragon. Okay, so once Esau, the wicked, gets up in there, once they get close, you know, and they get into that kill zone, they're ready to kill. Okay, they show their true colors, their true intent, you know. And that's also why scriptures say here, this is book of Psalms chapter 58 verse 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. All right. So the Lord likens the wicked unto a child instantly since birth that's lying. It's like you'd be an idiot to trust a child like that, right? Or to believe a child like that. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear, which will not hearken to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely. Which means that they're likening them unto a snake, that even though you have charmers, okay, you're giving out their best flute or whatever it is. We've all seen it. You have someone with a flute charming a snake. No matter how hard the charmer is going, that snake is still going to be that snake and be that destructive, poisonous snake. All right. Esau is always going to be wicked and conniving and deceiving, and destructive and so on and so forth. Nothing's going to stop that. All right. That's why scriptures say, let favor be shown unto the wicked, yet will they not know righteousness. Roughly paraphrasing. And let's also grab what we quoted. It's the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. All right. And you can always expect iron to rust. You can always count on your enemy to be wicked. All right. You can always count on Esau, more specifically, to be wicked, because that's why they were created. They're literally known as the wicked within the scriptures. Though he humble himself and go crouching, that's that innocence coming as the lamb, yet take good heed and beware of him. Why? Because that dragon is going to show sooner or later. Yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beast? All right. Hey, what was the I want to say poem that Trump quoted? You knew I was a snake, right? You knew I was a snake, and you still came up and did all of that, right? You knew I was a snake. So don't get mad at me. You get bit, all right? And don't try to blame anyone else when you get bit, all right? The Lord has his men telling you, Esau, Edom, so-called white man, all right? is the devil. Yet you have our people who don't want to listen and still trust and believe in Esau, and that Esau wants what's best for them. Your literal enemy. Okay, the Lord created these people to be your opposite, and that's who you put your trust in. You got to find out the hard way, right? There's nothing to that. You have to be bit by the serpent, and you are not going to be pitied. So one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? No one. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, coming as a lamb, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit, dragon. All right. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, that's that lamb, that innocence, all right, meekness. But if he find opportunity, just getting that foot through the door, he will not be satisfied with blood. All right, and the Lord is coming to show this real soon. All right, when the Lord puts a spirit on Esau to just straight up come after Jake now. All right, when that heightened time of Jacob's trouble, where the enemy is seeking or roaring like a lion, as scriptures put it, roughly paraphrasing, seeking whom he may devour. All right, they're not going to be satisfied with blood, man. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. He will shake his head and clap his hands and whisper much and change his countenance. So again, they get that foot through the door and show the real them, what they really wanted, their true intent. So never trust thine enemy. Continuing, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So again, the deadly wound being healed, Esau coming back into power. All right, coming back into power, and the world now following after them in their ways, right? Following after the beast, following after them in their system. Verse 13, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. All right, now what this is going into is Esau and their their bombs. All right, their nukes, their missiles. When you go back into the time of World War II, right, what were those nukes that they dropped? All right, you had, I don't know if it was Little Man or Little Boy. Let's see, I want to say Little Man. Yep, Little Man, Fat Man, and Little Boy. That's what they were, Fat Man and Little Boy. But this would be likened to fire raining down. Fat Man and Little Boy were the operational code names for the first two atomic bombs used in warfare, developed by the U.S. Manhattan Project. Both weapons were pivotal in breaking World War II to a close, but they utilized entirely different fuel. Let's see, Fat Man and Little Boy effect on the world. The long-term effects on the world, the Cold War and the arms race. The deployment of the bombs transferred the United States into a global superpower and sparked a global nuclear arms race as other nations sought to build their own arsenals. And why is that? Well, he doeth great wonders. That was a great wonder. Okay, now the other nations want to be able to do this great wonder. All right, let's actually look into this word wonder. You have Semayon.
Strong's G 4592. Semayon. Semayon.
Semayon. A sign marked token that by which a person or thing is distinguished from others and is known. Alright, 8, as we just read, that pretty much bumped up the US to a superpower. Right? A sign, prodigy, portent, i.e. an unusual occurrence, transcending the common course of nature. Right? And that's exactly what that was at the time. That's why you had, as it reads here, now everyone's racing to achieve that power, right? And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth and in the sight of men. And also what these devils had was quite literally fire raining down. All right, you have something known as napalm. Napalm is a highly flammable jellied petrochemical mixture, usually based on gasoline, used primarily as an incendiary weapon. Right? I want to pick images, but I'm scared it's going to show the the inappropriate images. Right? I don't want it to do that. But yeah, they pretty much quite literally had fire raining down. Right? You can search that up yourself. But continuing, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. All right, now these miracles are going to what? They're pseudo miracles, that they're false miracles, quote unquote miracles that they're able to perform through what? Their technology. Right? And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, and that word deceive. Right, when you go into this word deceiveth, you have the word planao. Okay, and it means pretty much to be led astray. All right, so through let's actually get the word first. Planao, to cause to stray, to lead astray, lead aside from the right way. All right, so through Esau technology, through their miracles. All right, they lead people into thinking that, okay, this is what's good for us. All right, when really they're presenting death as life. Right, but continuing, it says, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. All right, because they get the people hooked onto this technology through through these false miracles, all right, and through something known as convenience, right, weaponized convenience, that the people pretty much allow them to, right, whether involuntary or voluntary, they pretty much allow them to, or some are down with, all right, and they let Esau establish a complete technological system, all right, complete digital system, and that's what we see taking place in our time now. Esau trying to establish this complete digital system that gives them complete control, right? Which is the system of the pagan ancient Roman Empire. Again, as we said, modernized, but in Esau's eyes, this would be it being perfected, because now they have that complete control as they wanted, all right, and now it'll essentially give them the seat of God in their eyes. All right, because that's ultimately what these devils are after. All right, they want to be the Most High. Let's get that in the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3, and it reads, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first. And when this day, it's talking about the return of the Lord. All right, and this falling away first is going into Israel. All right, how we fell away from who we were, and that really conjured up, all right, during the time of 70 AD, or around that time, where you had us dwelling in our land, right, the Jews in Jerusalem, and the Romans came up against us. All right, from there is where you had us scattered. All right, most of us fled into Africa, and so on and so forth. But as time went on, all right, we eventually completely fell away from who we were as a people. So that's really dealing with the time of 70 AD. And that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Okay, so these two things need to take place before the Lord returns. That day, all right, and or that time, all right, and the wicked being revealed, the man of sin, the son of perdition, which perdition pretty much means destruction, in which that man has been revealed, all right, he has been revealed for quite some time now, and that's why we see and that's why we clearly see, all right, that we are in the time of the end, all right, the things that are happening on the earth, the things that Esau is doing on the earth show the time that we're in, man. All right, but that man is Esau Edom, okay, the so-called white man. Verse 4, who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called God. All right, that's why, as we read in Revelation the 13th chapter, what? That it had, or the beast had on him the heads or the names of blasphemy, right? Roughly paraphrasing. Sitteth, or that is worshipped. So like who opposes and exalted himself above all that is called the Most High, or that is worshipped, so that he as the Most High sitteth in the temple of the Most High, showing himself that he is the Most High. And again, with the inventing of their technology, all right, the growth of their technology comes the growth of these devils' pride, all right, truly thinking that they can come up against the Lord, they can rival the Lord, and they're sadly mistaken. Let's also grab the book of Isaiah. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 13. Thou hast said in thine heart, right, in which your heart, word here should be labab or lob. Here, labab, the inner man, mind, will, heart, a soul. All right, so your heart is going into your mind, all right, your soul, your spirit, your inner man. So these devils think, okay, they truly believe and think, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, I will be like the Most High. All right, that's what these devils truly think they can achieve, by way of their technology, to be like the Lord. All right, and he's coming to show them that they were sadly mistaken, or are sadly mistaken. All right, that's why scriptures say the pride of thine heart has deceived thee. Okay, here it is. Esau is the Lord has put the spirit of deception, to be so great in Esau that they're even deceiving themselves. All right. So going back to Revelation 13 and 14. All right, they through their technology, they got the people hooked, to where they are now creating this completely digitalized, technologized, all right, system, all right, which is that ancient pagan Roman system brought back, perfected, some may say, all right, modernized, and is ultimately going to be a system of complete control, complete, authority, complete hell, slavery, all right, for the people. That's what we're coming into. Verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and it caused that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. All right, now the image of the beast, this is that system. All right, that this is the system. All right, this digitalized system, that's the image. All right, that as we just spoke of here, the ancient system of Rome brought back through their technology, digitalization, all right, giving them complete control. That system, that's the image. All right, and it says here that the image of the beast should both speak, and that they gave life unto it. All right, when you think about idols back then, all right, images or false gods or whatever back then, they weren't able, there was no life, all right, they weren't able to speak, they weren't able to actually do things. You know, that's where the change, the difference is with these devils. Through their technology, they were actually able to make this system do things, right? You have Esau and the robots, right? You have the certain miracles, as we just read, all right? You know, and that's what you know, people expect of what a God, to be able to actually be able to perform, all right, to actually be able to make things happen. Well, these devils can do that through their technology, all right. So that's why it's saying that they gave life unto the beast, that they should both speak. Now, speaking also goes into you know, certain things that you know, pretty much show the implementation of this system. Like you might say, or something may happen, and then, you know, you can see how that ties into the creation of the system. Okay, that it's speaking, it's you know, it's letting itself be known. Yeah, this is me. All right, I'm coming. All right, but also, as we just said, and you know, another thing, when you think about something that has life, right, something that can speak, that has life, well, that means it has what? A spirit, right? And the spirit of Esau, well, the spirit of their system, the spirit of their technology, rather, would be likened unto what? Their AI, right? It's literally called artificial intelligence, all right? They have created and given this idol, this system, a mind of its own. As we just read in Isaiah, all right, that word heart. Well, you need a heart to live, right? Life. What did it go into? All right, the inner man, the mind, the soul. All right, that's what these devils have created with their artificial intelligence, and an artificial inner man. All right, that's ultimately what it is. That's how they gave life, you know, or part of them giving life unto this system, unto this image, to where now it can actually, you know, have things happen. It can do things, all right, and even make you do things. If you take that MOTB, all right, we went into an article on that not too long ago. You know, so you see how, you know, how it gives them power, all right, and why, you know, it makes these devils so prideful, you know, into thinking that they can actually, you know, rival the Lord. But to us who actually know the true power of the Lord, we know they're nowhere near. All right, it's laughable to us, man, to see these devils actually think they can rival Yahweh Ba'Shem Al-Rashai, that they can come up against the Lord and even put up a fight at that. But continuing, it says, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. All right, so those who are not down with Esau and their system, not down with the agenda that they push, all right, you are going to be ostracized. You know, you are going to be an outcast of the society, because this system is going to be the world, it's going to be life, it's going to be the society. So if you're against it, they're going to put you out. All right, that's part of the being killed. But also, you know, you're going to have those who are, all right, Salakia for the interruption. I honestly think Esau playing games on my phone. You know, Siri kept fucking popping up, music started playing, and I just had to start over the recording, right? But as we were going into, right, this word killed, when you go into it, to apoktino, right, to kill in any way, whatever, to destroy, allow to perish, metaphorically, extinguish, abolish, to inflict mortal death, all right. And also when you go into the root word, apo, of separation, of local separation, after verbs of motion from a place, of departing, of fleeing, of separation of a part from a whole, all right, of any kind of separation of one thing from another, by which the union or fellowship of the two is destroyed, of a state of separation, that is of distance. All right, so those who will against this system, those who ultimately don't take the mark, they will be separated from society, all right, ostracized. And also, as we said, right, those who have, ultimately literally be killed, all right, because this society, something that you are going to need as it goes into to take part in that society eventually, ultimately, is the mark, all right, of the beast, which is the RFID microchip, all right. And he causeth all, verse 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. All right, when you go into this word mark, and you go into the root words, basically, it gives you like a breakdown of, the chip, its assembly, all right, what's on it, a breakdown of what it is, pretty much. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 16. Right, in this word mark here, you have the word charagma. Okay, and this is going into the literal device itself. All right. Charagma, a stamped and imprinted mark of the mark stamped on the forehead of the right hand as the badge of the followers of the anti-Hamashiach. Thing carved. All right. All right, Slakia again. I don't know why that keeps happening, but a thing carved, sculpture, graven work of idolatrous images. All right, a thing carved. I'm gonna try to speed this up. All right, a thing carved is a literal thing. All right, that's going into the actual device itself. All right. However, these devils engineered it, created it. That's likened unto it be this sculpture. All right, an idolatrous image sculpture being carved. Now, when you go in to this root word, right, you have harax, and what this goes into, and that proves that the previous one proved that it's a literal, physical, tangible thing. All right, you can't carve nothing, you can't sculpt nothing. All right. From karasso, to sharpen to a point, aching through the idea of scratching. All right, a pail or stake, all right, in which that scratching is likened unto what? If you have a pail or stake scratching your skin, that's going to, pretty much cut you up. All right, and what this pail or stake is, a pail or stake is pretty much like a sharpened piece of wood. All right, so imagine that, as it says here, through the idea of scratching your skin, right? And what this is going into is the piercing mechanism. All right, whatever they use to pierce you and implant the actual charagma, that's what this would be. All right, a specific type of needle or something that they use, that's what this is likened unto. Here it says to sharpen to a point through the idea of scratching a stake. Slakia. All right, going into this next one, you have grapho, to write with reference to the form of the letters, to delineate, getting straight to the point, to commit to writing things not to be forgotten, write down, record. Okay, to write to one, i.e. by writing in a written epistle, to give information, directions. And what this is going into is the information or the records, all right, the data that will be held on that device that is implanted into you, that connects you to the digital grid itself. All right, so you yourself will now be a part of the digital system, and that is that mark. All right, and as we read here, in the right hand or in their foreheads. Okay, the right hand going into, and not literally just the right hand, but that's just the vision that the Apostle John, or John the Revelator, has seen, which makes sense because most people are right-handed. But wherever you take it, all right, and in their forehead, and that's really going into your brain, right? You see Elon Musk and Neuralink. You see China and their brain chip development, which we also did an article on that, lesson on that, how China has developed the first commercial brain implant, right? And that's all. It's all for this, man. There is all leading to this, the establishment of this system. But continuing, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. All right, and that's what's going to tempt a lot of people into taking it, coerce a lot of people into taking it. All right, but what this is the Lord, a test from the Lord ultimately, to see, well, his believers, what's a test for his believers, right? To see whether we would trust the Lord or ultimately give in to Esau, Shalakia, given to Esau and the beast and worship their system. Right, let's actually grab that. It's the book of Revelation chapter 3 verse 10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation. Keeping the word of the Lord's patience, all right, keeping his truth, his gospel, all right, his what the Lord has commanded us to do, all right, keeping the faith, and so on and so forth. I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation. All right. And when you go into this word temptation, it backs up the MOTB. All right. It backs up what that mark is, because that's the ultimate temptation, as we're reading in Revelation, the 17th chapter. Revelation 13, the 17th verse. So here you have the word temptation, parasmos, all right, an experiment, attempt, trial, in which you go deeper into these root words, pretty much saying the same thing until you get to where, all right, here you have pira, a trial, experience, attempt. Okay, so again, a trial, a testing, an attempt. Up here or down here it reads, through the idea of piercing, a test, i.e. attempt, experience, a saying, trial. All right, so a trial, a testing, temptation through the idea of piercing. The Lord seeing whether you will take that MOTB or not, man, because that's what it is. All right, and even further, you go in here, you have the word paran, right? It reads up here, obsolete derivative of piro, to pierce, beyond, on the other side. All right, you will be being pierced, okay, and the needle will go beyond onto the other side of what? Your skin, your body, and lay that chip in there, right? So that's that ultimate temptation. But those who trust the Lord, well, the Lord is going to keep us from taking it, because that's ultimately up to the Lord. All right, and what we do now, pretty much, what we're doing now is trying to prove the Lord that, we are worthy of his mercy. All right, so that he doesn't make us take it. Okay, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Right, to try them that dwell upon the earth. Now, this is not going to be the only temptation, but it is the main one. So going back to Revelation 13 and 17, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark. So without this mark, right, without this implant, you won't be able to partake in this system. You won't be able to gain, the necessary things needed for survival, and so on and so forth. All right, because that implant is going to have your money, and your identification. All right, and those things connect to everything else ultimately that you need to survive in a society. All right, or to take part in the society. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Right, and these things are pretty much, the mark encompasses. All right, because without this mark, these things are pretty much part of the system. Right, without this mark, you will have, you won't be a part of that system, and therefore you won't have anything of the system, right? That was we read in Revelation the 15th chapter, right? It's not because this wouldn't be literal, right? You're not going to literally be, mandated to know the number of the beast, or the number of his name, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. All right, but you taking that mark, you following in the agenda of Esau, that's you pretty much becoming one with the beast. All right, and therefore taking on the number of the beast, and taking on taking on the name of the beast, and taking on the number of his name. When you go into that word name, right, it goes into what? A reputation. Right? And once you take this mark, you are part of that reputation. You are part of that system. Verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So here it gives us the number of the beast. And again, when you going further into the number of the beast, which in the Greek is chi psi stigma, all right, that final 6 stigma, again backs up what this MOTB is, what the mark is that implant, right? Here you have stigma, a marked pricked in, all right, from a primary stizo to stick, i.e. prick. We all know what that looks or feels like. A mark pricked in or branded upon the body. To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate. Right? Did we not say that this system is going to be a digital slave system? All right. Once you take this mark, you have indicated to the Lord pretty much who you belong to. All right, Esau and the beast in their system, and you are going to be, judged for that. All right, you are going to be seen as an enemy of the Lord, and therefore destroyed as an enemy of the Lord. Cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to, and there were 7 devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their gods. All right, the image of the beast, an image, an idol. All right, as we read in the word charagma, right? When we went into that, what does it say? Of idolatrous images, the token of their gods. All right, that beast, that is your god. Esau and their system is your god, man. Reading down here, a mark in size or punched, recognition of ownership. All right, in which we went a little deeper into this in my previous lesson, but I'll close it out here, right? Lord willing, this video was edifying or informative or uplifting in some way, shape, or form. And once more, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the hopeful elect.